Welcome to my new Blender course. In this step-by-step beginner-friendly series, we'll create this true-to-scale minifigure replica using precision modeling techniques. Now let's dive into part 2, precision modeling the torso. Before we start, let's hide the head mesh. On the view layer, click here on this eye to hide in viewport. Now let's create the torso. Press Shift+A to add, go to mesh, and create a single vert. Now let's create the torso shape. From the measurements I took, the torso length is 15.44 mm. On the transform panel, set the X location to -15.44 divided by 2. The torso height is 12.77 mm divided into two segments. The first one has 1 mm, and the second one has 11.77 mm with an angle of 80.15 degrees. Let's create them. Press E to extrude, Z to lock the axis, type 1, and enter to confirm. As the next segment has an angle, let's set the 3D cursor position. With the vertex selected, press Shift+S to snap, and select Cursor to selected. This will place the 3D cursor at this vertex location and will help us rotate the next edge. But before that, we need to set the transform pivot point to 3D cursor. Press E to extrude, Z to lock the axis, type 13, and enter to confirm. As I need the angle here to be 80.15 degrees, let's rotate this edge by 9.85 degrees. Press R to rotate, Y to lock the axis, type 9.85, and enter to confirm. Now I'm going back to finish the last vertex extrude at this edge here. Select the bottom vertex and extrude it back to 0. Just press E to extrude, X to lock the axis, type 7.72, and enter to confirm. Now the height. Press E to extrude, Z to lock the axis, type 1, and enter to confirm. Press E to extrude, Z to lock the axis, type 11.77, and enter to confirm. For the last extrude, I'll use Snap to Edge. Press Shift+Tab to enable Snap, and Shift+Ctrl+Tab to set it to Edge. Now press E to extrude, X to lock the axis, hover the mouse cursor over this edge, and left-click to confirm. Let's merge these vertices. Select this vertex here and this vertex here. Press M to merge, and select at last. To fill these faces, press A to select all, F3, and select Grid Fill. Now press Tab to exit edit mode and go to Modifiers. Add Modifier, Generate, and add a Mirror modifier. The torso width is 7.8 mm, so let's add another modifier. Add Modifier, Generate, and add a Solidify modifier. Set thickness to 7.8 mm and offset to 0. Apply both modifiers. Now go to the bottom view and press Tab to go to Edit mode. Hold Alt and select this middle edge loop. Press X to delete and select Dissolve Edges. Press 3 to enable face selection, select this bottom face, press X to delete, select faces, and exit edit mode. Now let's add thickness to this mesh. On Modifiers, Add Modifier, Generate, and add a Solidify modifier. Set thickness to 1 mm, offset to -1, check Even Thickness, and uncheck Fill. Now press Ctrl+A to apply the modifier. As the thickness of the torso is not equal on all sides, let's move some faces. The left and right thickness is 1.2 mm, and the front and back is 1 mm. So we need to add 0.2 mm to these left and right faces. On Edit mode, select these two inner left faces, press G to grab, X to lock the axis, type 0.2, and enter to confirm. Now select these two inner right faces, press G to grab, X to lock the axis, type -0.2, and enter to confirm. Enable Edge Selection, select this edge loop, and on the Transform panel, set the Z location to 1 mm. Now let's round some edges, but before that, let's delete these two bottom edge loops. We'll extrude them back after the bevel. Select both edge loops, press X to delete, and select Vertices. Now press Shift+Tab to disable Snap. For the outer shell, we'll need a 0.4 mm bevel, and for the inner shell, we'll need a 0.2mm bevel. Let's start with the inner shell. Select all inner faces, press Ctrl+B to bevel, and enter to confirm. Set width to 0.2mm and segments to 8. Now the outer shell. Select all outer faces, press Ctrl+E and select Mark Sharp. Now press Ctrl+B to bevel and enter to confirm. Set width to 0.4mm, segments to 8, inner miter to arc, and the spread to 0.0016, which is 1.6mm. This part here took me a lot of tries to achieve the result I wanted. I've tried to mess with the bevel segments, but always got this weird pointy corner. Then I've tried to use Relax from the Loop Tools add-on, but it turns out even worse. The way I found to fix this is not perfect, but it was the best result I got. If anyone knows a better way to fix this, leave it in the comments so others can see. Enable Vertex selection and select this middle vertex here. Press Shift+G to select Similar and select Amount of Connecting Edges. Press Ctrl++ to select more, enable Face Selection and select all the corner faces. Now press Ctrl+V and select Smooth Vertices. Here you can mess with these numbers and you'll still be able to follow along. For me, smoothing at 0.5 and repeat at 2 gave me the best result. Now that both bevels are done, let's return these bottom edge loops to 0 on the Z-axis. Select both, press E to extrude, Z to lock the axis, type -1 and enter to confirm. Press Ctrl+E, select Clear Sharp, and to bridge them, press Ctrl+E and bridge edge loops. To finish this mesh, exit Edit Mode, right mouse and select Shade Auto Smooth. Now press F2 to rename and rename it Torso. The base mesh for the torso is complete. Now I'll create a series of Boolean meshes, first the ones to add and then the ones to subtract. Let's start creating the neck. With the torso selected, press Tab to go to Edit Mode. Select this top face, press Shift+S to snap, select Cursor to Selected, and exit Edit Mode. This will place the 3D cursor at the center of this face. Press Shift+A to add and create a mesh cylinder. Set vertices to 64, radius to 4.8mm divided by 2, and the depth to 5.8mm. To place it at the right spot, let's add half of the cylinder depth to the Z location. Just add 5.8 divided by 2 to the Z location current value, and hit Enter to confirm. Now press F2 and rename it Torso Add 01. Now create 4 rectangles that go inside the torso. With the torso selected, press numpad 7 and 9 to go to the bottom view, and to see better, press numpad 5 to change to perspective view. Go to Edit Mode, enable Edge Selection, select this edge, press Shift+S to snap, and select Cursor to Selected. Now exit Edit Mode, press Shift+A to add, and create a mesh plane. Set the X location to -4mm, and on the Y location, subtract 0.45 divided by 2 from the current value. On dimensions, set X to 0.75mm and Y to 0.45mm. Now press Ctrl+A and apply scale. To make sure the Boolean will work properly, let's move this bottom edge a bit inside the torso mesh. Go to Edit Mode, select this bottom edge, press G to grab, Y to lock the axis, type 0.1 and enter to confirm. Press Tab to exit Edit Mode. Now let's mirror and extrude this rectangle. On Modifiers, add Modifier, Generate, and add a Mirror modifier. Set axis to X and Y, and on Mirror Object, select the torso. Add Modifier, Generate, and add a Solidify modifier. Set thickness to 12mm and offset to 1. Now apply both modifiers, press F2, and rename it Torso Add 02. Now create another shape that goes inside the torso. With the torso selected, go to Edit Mode, select this edge, press Shift+S to snap, and select Cursor to Selected. Now exit Edit Mode, press Shift+A to add, and create a mesh circle. Set vertices to 64 and the radius to 6.5mm divided by 2. Press Shift+A to add and create a mesh circle. Set vertices to 64 and the radius to 5mm divided by 2. Press Shift+A to add and create a mesh plane. Set the X location to -1.125 mm, the X dimension to 0.75 mm, and the Y dimension to 7.8 mm. Shift select both circles, press Ctrl+J to join, and tap to go to edit mode. Now let's align some vertices. Enable snap and set snap target to edge. To align them, let's use vertex slide. Select this vertex here and press G 2 times to vertex slide. Now hover the mouse cursor over this edge and left click to confirm. Repeat the same steps to align this other one here. Now delete all the vertices I don't need. Select all these 111 vertices here and press X to delete. Now select these two vertices here and press F to create a new edge. Now these two here and press F to create a new edge. Now press A to select all, F to create a new face, and tap to exit edit mode. Now let's mirror and extrude this shape. On Modifiers, add Modifier, Generate, and add a Mirror modifier. Set axis to X and Y, and on Mirror Object, select the torso. Add Modifier, Generate, add a Solidify modifier, and set thickness to 12 mm. Now apply both modifiers, press F2, and rename it Torso Add 03. Now create a Boolean Mesh to cut the shape, but before that, press Shift+C to reset the 3D cursor. Press Shift+A to add and create a mesh circle. Set vertices to 64, radius to 0.5 mm, the Z location to 4.5 mm, and the Y rotation to 90 degrees. On Local View, press numpad 3 to go to the left view. On Edit mode, select this bottom half and press X to delete. Select these two here, press E to extrude, type -5, Enter to confirm, A to select all, and F to create a new face. Now exit Edit mode and Local View. Let's extrude this shape. On Modifiers, add Modifier, Generate, add a Solidify modifier, and set the offset to 0. Now apply the modifier, press F2, and rename it Torso Sub 01. The last Boolean shape we need is to create the holes for the arms. But before that, make sure to enable the Bool tool add-on. Go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and enable the add-on. Press Shift+A to add and create a mesh cylinder. Set vertices to 64, radius to 2.5 mm, depth to 0.2 mm, the X location to -6.3 mm, the Z location to 9.15 mm, and the Y rotation to -80.15 degrees. Now press Shift+S to snap and select Cursor to selected. Press Shift+A to add and create a mesh cylinder. Set vertices to 64, radius to 2 mm, depth to 3 mm, and the Y rotation to -80.15 degrees. Shift select the first cylinder, press Shift plus Ctrl plus B to Boolean, and select Union. Let's mirror the cylinder. On Modifiers, add Modifier, Generate, and add a Mirror modifier. On Mirror Object, select the torso, apply the modifier, press F2, and rename it Torso Sub 02. To make sure the Boolean will not create weird intersecting faces, let's move the neck vertices a bit inside the torso. Select the neck, disable snap, go to Edit mode, and select this bottom edge loop. Press G to grab, Z to lock the axis, type -0.1, enter to confirm, and exit edit mode. Now we need to create two collections for the Boolean meshes, one to add and one to subtract. Select all three torso add meshes, press M to move to collection, click New Collection, and rename it Torso Add. Select both torso sub meshes, press M to move to collection, click New Collection, and rename it Torso Sub. Now uncheck both to exclude them from View Layer. Select the torso and go to Modifiers. Add Modifier, Generate, and add a Boolean modifier. Set it to Union, operand type to Collection, and select the Torso Add Collection. Add Modifier, Generate, and add a Boolean modifier. Set it to Difference, operand type to Collection, and select the Torso Sub Collection. To finish, let's apply both Boolean modifiers and clean the mesh. One thing I'll recommend here is to always save a new file before applying the Boolean modifier. This way you can always go back to the previous file if anything happens to the mesh. Press Ctrl+A to apply both modifiers, tap to go to Edit mode, and go to the bottom view. Now select these 8 edges here, press X to delete, and select Dissolve Vertices. To make sure we don't have any duplicate vertices, press A to select all, and M to merge by distance. Set merge distance to 0.01 and exit edit mode. And for last, right mouse and select Shade Auto Smooth. And with that, we finished part 2. The next one will be part 3, modeling the hips. If you're still here, it means you are liking the content of this course. This took me a lot of time and planning to make it, so please consider subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, and leave a comment. It's fast, simple, and most important, it's free. Thanks a lot for watching and see you on the next one. Bye bye.